The working poor are stuck in a cycle of poverty because the minimum wage and government subsidies are not enough. 42% of children born to parents in the bottom fifth of the economic distribution remain in the bottom as adults. 23% of the bottom fifth only rise to the next quintile. The federal minimum wage is just $7.25, which, applied to a 40-hour work week, yields an annual salary of about $15,000. That's below the federal poverty line and allows these minimum wage workers and their families to receive government subsidies and benefits allotted to the low-income Americans. However, a study by Portland State University shows that families generally need 2 times the amount defined as the federal poverty level in order to meet basic needs. In other words, families relying on minimum wage are making just enough to get by and need an extra boost in order to propel themselves out of generational poverty. With the income disparity in the United States growing, the middle class is dwindling. That cuts into customer spending, which is a major hit for the national economy. This affects the rich and the poor. Policy option number 1 is an increase in the federal minimum wage to $16 an hour. The current minimum wage is just $7.25 and buries the poor below the poverty line, with very little chance of advancing. The new rate will go farther in certain regions than others. For example, the average living wage in San Francisco is higher than it is in Mississippi. However, $16 an hour is the average living wage in the country because the basic needs cost for a family of 4 is about $65,000. The current minimum wage only yields an average annual salary of about $30,000. The minimum wage spike targets both the middle class and the working class. Once the working class begins earning more money, the middle-class workers will demand higher salaries as well because many of them are more qualified due to more extensive education. An increase in the minimum wage will have to be paid for through added taxes to the American wealthy. The United States had a financial transaction tax on stock market trades until 1966. The proven system that includes tax speculation should be re-implemented. These financial transactions are the only assets someone can buy in the United States without being taxed, with the exception of the 5 states that do not enforce a sales tax. Therefore, as of now, these transactions are the only transactions that do not help the federal government. The government needs that help in order to increase the federal minimum wage. Policy option number 2 is a universal basic income of $1,000 for the poorest 50% of America each month. This will allow the working poor to save and even grow their money by investing instead of living strictly paycheck to paycheck. Increased savings and financial appreciation will propel future generations of the working poor out of poverty. The universal basic income strictly targets the bottom half of the population because they're the ones who need it most, and handing out money to the other half of the threshold would be too great of an expense to the federal government. The federal government will be able to pay for the UBI through additional taxes to the wealthy and large corporations. It's essential to recognize that eventually the UBI will help pay for itself. More money in the hands of the working poor means more money will be spent, which will help the economy surge. The working poor are also the ones most in danger with the rise of automated labor. According to the Brookings Institute, 25% of U.S. jobs are threatened by artificial intelligence and other technological advancements. If and when the working poor lose jobs to automation, the UBI will be a cushion similar in value to today's minimum wage for them to use while they look for another job. The universal basic income will likely cost more than the spike in the federal minimum wage because although $16 an hour is a dramatic increase from $7.25 an hour, it's merely the federal minimum wage. States can set their own rate and keep it below $16 an hour if they choose. However, the minimum wage spike would have a stronger ripple effect because the middle-class workers will demand higher salaries when the working poor begin earning nearly as much as them despite a qualification differential. Both of the policies would be costly to the wealthy Americans because of higher taxes. A key difference between the two is that the minimum wage spike targets the poor who truly need aid. The UBI targets the bottom 50% of America. Not everyone on that spectrum is in dire need. Many work for more than the federal minimum wage. The minimum wage increase is the most compelling policy to combat generational poverty because it promotes hard work. The UBI enables recipients to work less and still receive the benefits. In addition to the promotion of hard work, the minimum wage spike targets those who need the help more precisely than the UBI. It also has the same effect in its fight against generational poverty. It gives the poor more funds to invest and appreciate over time. Saving the extra funds would eliminate the need to live paycheck to paycheck.